Hey everyone, TimaeuSS. Welcome to another NIKKE video. So finally it is here, the most up-to-date tier list for NIKKE release. Alright, so let me just preface this by saying that this has been such a big piece of work from the Pride1 team, and especially from Koji, sorry I butchered your name, but he's done a tremendous job in coming up with this tier list. Honestly, the true driving force behind analyzing everything, and I know it is pretty much the most definitive tier list out there because two reasons. First of all, we're actually on the test server. Okay, we have access to the latest skill changes, so this is specific to the pre-release version, different from CBD2, different from the technical test. A lot of things has changed. Okay, so this is the most up-to-date version. And a different thing, the second reason why we have the most up-to-date one is because we actually did the ultimate endgame DPS testing. So let me just show you. I'm on the content creator early access test server, and I have access to every single unit maxed out. Okay, level 200 absolutely maxed out. And that's why we were able to be extremely confident in our testing, because we took every single unit through the DPS testing. Basically solo DPS, and everything is done in auto, just so that you know, we cater towards a bit more casual. So for manuals, we're going to see some different results that we can update later, but for the purpose of this test, a solo DPS test, a generic team-based test with our units, so lower rank that they don't really make a difference, it's the same across all the teams, a team test with auto skills on, so we can go burst 1, 2, 3 to make sure that we account for their full burst, and then also custom team with gimmicks like heals for the units that need low HP and stuff like that. And it's absolutely insane. Let me just go over some of the stuff that we did before we jump to the tier list. However, if you don't care, you can fast forward, okay? But I just want to show you the amount of extensive research involved in this, and it's not, you know, some people looking at the kit and thinking, yeah, this is good, oh, this is bad. We actually tested this full maxed out. So we tested with Alice, because Alice was actually one of the best attackers in CBT2 and also technical test. People were saying, you know, reroll for her. However, as you can see here, she is doing well, but not super strong. And we also put a healer, Emma, in the test because we wanted a benchmark, and Emma actually did decent amount of damage. So we jokingly internally called the thing, the test, the Emma test. If you're an attacker, you better do more damage than Emma or you're gonna fail, right? So similarly, we got Drake doing really good, but look at Scarlet. Massive damage compared to how Drake, the other reroll priority target in CBT2. All right, so that's enough of the testing we've done. So let's look at the actual tier list. So we got 3 units in the absolute SS tier, and those are basically ones that are the best at what they do. We don't have anyone in SSS tier at the current moment because NIKKE is a game I feel that you can actually choose your waifu and be somewhat comfortable in terms of passing content and whatnot. You don't really have to chase the super top tiers. It's just really going for the units you like. I think will make you enjoy the game a lot more. So why are these 3 SS? And they're actually SS tier in their respective fields. So Litter or Leader, I'm not sure how they call it. It surely cannot be Litter, right? Because that's just trash. But she is a support, the best in-slot support, because she offers skills that affects the cooldown of burst skills. And burst is another technical component of the game I'll talk about in a separate video. But as a support, she essentially allows you to cycle through your burst much faster, allowing you to enter full burst with huge damage boost and activating skills related to that. And she also boosts the ammo capacity, crit damage, and attack, and also recovers cover HP, which is insanely big in some of the fights, because cover HP essentially prevents your unit from taking full damage and prevents break and stuns at times. So very important. And of course she boosts the whole allies attack as well during burst, and she's a burst 1, I believe, which you can see here. So best in-slot support in terms of the attacker, we saw in our test run, which was absolutely Scarlet. And I'm so happy it's Scarlet because I really love the character. She is the strongest attacker, more difficult to use, I would say, because of 2 reasons. First of all, her innate built-in kit sacrifices a lot of her HP. She loses HP in exchange for attack buff. So you really need to set a healer, especially ideally a single target healer, to help Scarlet survive, because she's just going to lose a lot of HP. And also Scarlet is difficult to use because she is a pilgrim character, so innately she's going to have a lower chance of getting her in gachas, and also you cannot have her on the wish list. Okay, so that's why Scarlet is a bit more difficult to reach its full potential, but at maximum level, fully awakened, fully core up, or whatever their term is, she does the highest amount of damage out of every single unit, on auto of course, because there are things you can do with the team on manual. So attacker, Scarlet. And in terms of the defender, another SS tier is Ludmilla, or Snow, basically a Snow Queen. I'm just gonna call her that. Okay. So why is she good? So defender in this game is important because it allows your team to punch above their weight. Okay. So she has a skill 1 that decreases the attack and the defense of the enemy, so the debuff is quite nice. And she has a skill 2 that taunts. So she taunts for 15 seconds and is passive. A lot of the taunt units have it as their burst skill. So for example, Diesel. Diesel has a taunt for 5 seconds in her burst slot. So when you cycle through, it's actually going to take a long time. But she has a 15-second taunt at max level as a passive. At the full burst, so it's gonna trigger a lot more frequently, because as soon as you're going full burst, you don't have to wait for the cooldown of the actual burst, which is longer, right? So it really depends on how you put together your team, but the taunt is a lot longer and it can quote unquote happen faster because it's a full burst and not relying on an active cooldown. And during the full burst, you're gonna have almost a 60% damage reduction buff, which is huge because you're taunting, you're taking all the heat, and you are taking less damage. And then her burst skill is an AoE, and also she applies defense up. So overall, this entire kit works really, really well together. And you may think that, how come none of the healers are SS tier? Well, that's because for the later parts of the game, damage is very, very important. You want to kill the enemies faster, so that you don't have to suffer through the tanking and the healing. And that's why those three are essentially the best. And of course, everything again, take it with a grain of salt, because more further testing is needed, and this is essentially maxed out tier list. When you're actually playing the game, you're not going to have all the gears, you're not going to have everyone at max level, and things may be slightly different. And also they can still change some of the skills, because for example, Haran, she was SS tier as well. Her damage matched Scarlet, okay? But then there was a patch that nerfed her a tiny bit, and now she is slightly weaker compared to Scarlet. But absolutely another beast. So let's quickly go over the rest of the tier list, so we're not stuck here all day. But basically, those are the three, the tank, the attacker, and the supporters, absolutely at the top. And then you have your Haran, which is a DPS, a rocket launcher defender in Noah. And again, you see a common pattern, it's another pilgrim. And of course, Privity is actually S tier, and she is a free unit that you will get as part of the beginners event. So she is really, really good to have, and it's okay to actually pull dupes for Privity, and you should be wishing her as part of the wish list, which I'll have a guide as well, because she is very good and strong damage output wise. All right, and the rest, have a read. I'll have the link in the description so you can head on towards the tier list. You have your defenders, your supports, and yeah, I think overall, personally, I will want to go for Scarlet, but I'm happy with just picking up waifus like Volume, because I know everyone cares about Volume, and Volume is actually a decent attacker. She's got skills that decrease the burst cooldown and also affects all allies in terms of crit damage, and she has a crit chance buff. So she is an attacker, but is more of a supporter, but she really, really increases the damage output of your team. So again, have a read. I'm not going to go through every single unit on the tier list, because this is going to be, quite extensive. Check it out. But those three is what you should be aiming for, and I have the wish list. But yeah, let me know if you have any questions. Tier list, we really worked hard on it, because look at the amount of testing we did. We did solo testing, we did team composition testing, we did the Emma test, which is you better do more damage than a healer, and there's someone who kind of failed the Emma test. So she is an attacker and she did less damage than the healer, and of course where we placed her, we placed her in D, right? So this is why she's there. But anyhow, thanks for coming up with the tier list, Koji. You really did a huge job, and of course this is subject to change on the official release, but this is as close pretty much as you'll get, because the skills and the multipliers are pretty much set in stone. But yeah, I would still strongly recommend, and what I would do personally is roll for waifus. Maybe have 1 or 2 meta units that can carry you throughout the game, but the rest roll for waifus and go from there. Alright? Okay, so anyhow, TimaeuSS here, and I'll see you guys in the next video.